I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking about, are you only wanting your ex back because you're lonely?
This is a real one. It's a tough one.
It's brutal.
It is.
Yeah, sometimes we are very lonely after a breakup. Some of you guys are in different countries away from your friends and family. Maybe you've moved to be with your ex. Maybe you don't have a lot of friends because they just are busy all the time. And you know, as you get older, you have friends that move away, and so you don't have as much of a support system as you did when you're younger. So you could be lonely. Maybe your family passed away, they got older or something like that. And so after a breakup, this person that you spent all your time with, you just feel so alone in the world, and it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, they were the one person that you were really connected with. It might have been the only person that you really felt a sense of belonging with, a sense of family. And so losing that person through a breakup can make you feel really lonely. And I just want to say that it's very normal to experience that.
Yeah.
You know, if you do feel really isolated, you're isolated with many in the world who also feel isolated just like you do. You know, you're not alone even if you feel like it.
That's right. There are a lot of people that feel lonely.
Yeah.
So you got your own club.
Yeah. There should be a little club, like a little support group.
But sometimes you could, you know, feel alone and lonely after a breakup, even in a situation where maybe you didn't have a good quality relationship. And maybe it wasn't going well. Maybe they weren't a good partner for you. And there were different factors that maybe it wasn't working. And even though you knew it wasn't working, it wasn't good for you, it wasn't healthy for you, you're still really wanting that person back because you're feeling alone. Right,
and you might be questioning yourself of your own desire to have your ex back. Is this really because I want that person back in my life? Or is it because I do feel lonely and I don't feel like there's anybody around me that I can really rely on?
Yeah.
So this can cause you to doubt yourself and doubt your own want of repairing the relationship. So this is why we thought it would be important to touch on today.
Yeah.
That sometimes after a breakup, we do have this large void, and we might be wanting to fill it back up indiscriminately, even if it is a decision that isn't the best for us. I want to note too that these things aren't necessarily always separate. So you can genuinely want your ex back and have hope for the relationship and want a healthy relationship out of it, and also still be feeling lonely and want that part of you to be repaired too. So both of these can coexist. And sometimes, a lot of times, it actually is a little bit of both. Of feeling lonely, of wanting that person back that you cared for, and, you know, genuinely wanting to repair it and work on it and be serious about your growth.
Yeah.
So it can be both. So in today's video, we're going to talk about some questions, some ideas to really differentiate for yourself if this is a desire that's coming out of loneliness or if it is a desire coming out of genuine wanting to connect back with this specific person that you had a unique connection with.
Okay.
The very first thing that we want to look at is examining your feelings about being single. We can have this idea in our minds that we lose value if we're single. If we're not partnered, we don't matter as much. You know, if somebody else doesn't recognize our worth, then that means that we are worth less. So really question for yourself, what is it like for you to be single? Review back in your mind, what have the periods of singleness in your life really been like? Have you felt empowered? Have you felt free? Or did you feel worthless? Did you feel like people wouldn't really care about you or you didn't matter as much? So really examine this for yourself. Alongside of that is, what is your relationship with solitude like? Are you able to enjoy your alone time, or is it something that you dread or even fear?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm scared to be alone sometimes too, especially when it's dark in a home and there's like creepy sounds. I get freaked out.
Yeah, but you have your attack bunny.
I do have a little rabbit that'll protect me.
He'll help you.
Yeah. So really think about your relationship with solitude. Do you feel safe when you are alone? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you can explore your thoughts and have that curious attitude even about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
So question these things for yourself.
Yeah, you know, being afraid to be alone for whatever reason will cause a lot of problems in your life. I just was talking with somebody about this a couple days ago, because if you're afraid to be alone, then you're going to also tolerate somebody that's mistreating you. Mm-hmm. Because you're afraid that if you're single and alone, it's scary, all these problems are going to come up. You know, you might be afraid, and your attack bunny is useless to protect you. Not in Vicky's case. But, you know, you always want to be okay with being alone, because when you're not, then you're going to stay in situations that are really unhealthy, sometimes toxic, mm-hmm. sometimes even abusive.
Right.
Right?
And when you get comfortable with being alone, then that brings with it a sort of confidence, a sort of, if you're going to be a part of my life, it better be a hell of a lot better than me being alone.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
if you feel safer alone than you do with your partner, there's an issue there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're trying to figure out, am I wanting my ex back because it's genuinely about them? Mm-hmm. Or is it because I'm just lonely and I'm afraid to be alone? You got to think about things like, what is the quality of that relationship? How did they treat you? Mm-hmm. If they treated you relatively good, then of course you're going to miss them a lot more than they were mean and cruel and abusive, right? So you want to think about the quality of the relationship. You have to ask yourself about that. Did you feel like you could be yourself around them, right? The more you can be yourself, lower your guard. And sometimes there are just certain people that we feel we can truly be who we are mm-hmm. more than other people.
And I find this often being reflective of the other person's self-work. This was an insight that I came up with recently.
Yeah.
Or that came to me, I should say. You know, I noticed that I feel most comfortable around those who have done enough self-work and self-acceptance. And so when talking about these periods of singleness, your time alone, after a breakup, this self-work is going to affect how other people feel around you. Mm-hmm. Just a side note.
Yeah, absolutely. You also want to think about when you were in the relationship, did you feel alone? Were you lonely in the relationship? You want to consider that, mm-hmm. right? Something to really think about. Well, I was already feeling alone. Why would I want to go back to somebody who's making me feel alone anyway?
Right. And sometimes we can become accustomed to that feeling. That feeling becomes familiar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it was a situation where you were an only child. Maybe there was neglect there. Maybe you didn't feel seen or heard as a kid. And some of these feelings are familiar, of being left behind, of feeling invisible to the world. And so some of that can come up when thinking about somebody leaving, an ex, ending a relationship, and now that feeling of loneliness comes back, returns, all these other things come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another thing that's important to consider is, would this be a relationship that you would want your best friend to be in? This is a weird question, and the way I phrase it this way is because sometimes it can be easier to see other people being deserving of things instead of ourselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people that we care about, we want the best for them, but it's hard to want the best for ourselves sometimes when we don't think that we deserve it.
Yeah.
So when you reflect back on your relationship, let's say your very best friend was in this relationship and they were telling you about it, and then we did this on Saturday night, and then he said this to me. Are these things that you would be smiling about, encouraging your friend to pursue this relationship, or would this be one where you would be protective over your friend?
How many people were happy when the relationship ended, right?
Yeah.
If everybody was like, oh, thank God. I'm so happy you guys broke up. I hated them.
Well, there are situations like that.
Yeah, there really are.
There are.
So, maybe, you know, you want to consider what other people are telling you if everybody didn't like that person.
Right. If everyone across the board is relieved, if somebody's throwing a party for you,
Yeah.
that's worth considering. So you also want to look back and think about the red flags too. This is something that we miss so often in a relationship, and sometimes hour-long sessions with clients recounting their entire relationship. And then I will ask, okay, what red flags did you see? What were things that made you wonder or curious if there was something, you know, wrong happening here? And then they would have nothing. And so we work back together to find exactly, okay, this would have been a point of concern for me. This would have been a point of, you know, me questioning or doubting the relationship. You know, what came up for you? So sometimes we'll have an entire relationship and be blind to the red flags the entire time and not realize it until after the breakup. So use that as some self-reflection. Was there any red flags that you think you might have missed? If you think back and recollect your memories from it, were there moments where you had a gut instinct that something was off? And kind of re-examine those things.
Yep. And when you're thinking back about the relationship, are you reflecting upon how it actually was, or the way you thought it was going to be? The potential you saw in that person? Because there's a big difference, right? In who somebody actually is and how they're actually showing up, and the ideal fantasy of who they're going to be. That, you know, you think you have this great guy and he's nothing, doesn't line up with anything that you were thinking.
Yeah.
You were looking forward to seeing him all weekend.
Yeah.
And then it was just terrible.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes the idea of somebody can be a lot more captivating than the reality of it.
Yeah.
We were joking around about this earlier is why we're laughing. We're talking about how sometimes our fantasies and our hopes for a relationship can be much better. And just even experiencing the fantasy can be much better than experiencing the reality, which is such a wild thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what happens though when there's a lot of space.
Yeah.
You can create that, put those fantasies there. But part of going through the breakup is, you know, feeling these feelings of loss and sadness and grief about where you thought the relationship was going, the future of it, the dreams that you had, these fantasies that you and your partner had created together. And, you know, that's going to be hard to let go of and, you know, really reevaluate, like, what was actually going on there. Like, was it just a fantasy? Were they being honest with me? It's tough to tell sometimes. Sometimes people's agendas are hidden really well.
Oh, yeah. And in relationships, there are times where we're living in the past, living in the present, and living in the future. I feel that a lot of this grief comes from living in the future in a relationship.
Yep.
You know, I've seen situations where people have already picked out the color of the walls in their home that they had planned on building together. And then the relationship ends.
We have our 6 kids' names
Yeah.
picked and ready to go.
And so it's the loss of all of that, which can be really profound. You know, you don't really think about it from an outsider's point of view. Okay, you just lost this relationship. It was a couple months, but we had talked about all of this. You know, I had so many hopes and expectations. That's really where the pain comes in.
Yep.
Yeah. Another question for you guys is, have you given yourself time to process the breakup, to really think about what has happened, what it means for your life, and what moving on even looks like? Or is pining after your ex a distraction? This is very meta, because on this channel I know we talk quite a bit about reattracting your ex and repairing relationships, but we want you to think about your thinking. Are you noticing that you are obsessing over the no contact videos and trying to control every type of situation to get your ex back, and that itself being a distraction from the actual processing of the breakup and healing and thinking about the hurt and pain and feeling the hurt and pain? So something to consider, very meta, but think about your thinking and allow yourself that time to feel.
Yep. You're going to go through a lot of different emotions and feelings, and being sad and lonely is a big part of it. And so we're just wanting you to consider that and think about how it's affecting you and how you're seeing the breakup. And, you know, are you really missing your ex, or are you just lonely? You know, explore it. Try and figure it out. It's normal to feel lonely after a breakup. I mean, the person that you were spending all your time with, now you're not supposed to be contacting them, right? It's normal to be confused and overwhelmed and angry and sad and a lot of different emotions and lonely. And so if you're feeling lonely, it's normal.
Yeah, and remember to use your support system. You know, it's likely made up of a bunch of people who really care a lot about you. Before we were filming this, we were just talking about our personal experiences with loneliness and breakups. And I know I had mentioned before about my Norway breakup, and I was saying that my breakup would have been a lot more digestible had I been back home in my support system instead of displaced somewhere else trying to make friends and trying to make it work. Luckily, I had some really good people there that really did take care of me and really sat with me through some of my grief. But support system really does make a huge difference, and it can really make a difference in how you approach the breakup, how you see your ex, your perception of it, and how you feel about yourself. You know, I did get a burst of confidence when I knew that I had people that I can rely on or talk to, and didn't have that piece of loneliness that was causing me to hang on.
Absolutely. And we're here to help you with that too. You can always get a coaching with us, and we'll be happy to talk with you about your situation and what's going on. It's easy to do. Just go to my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.